Good morning and welcome to our online service. My name is Tom Hunton. I am the curate of St Paul's Church, Chippenham, St Nicholas Church, Harden Hewish and St Peter's Church, Langley Borough, the three churches in our Benefice. And this is our Benefice service for this week. It has been a really tough week. On Monday, it was announced that the country is going back into lockdown. And unlike previous lockdowns where we were told that it was compulsory that church buildings had to close, this time it was left to a local decision as to whether or not we opened or closed our church buildings. It's been a really difficult decision because we really love physically attending church together. However, the overriding principle that we've had to adhere to is thinking about the health and safety of our congregations. And so the difficult decision has been taken that we're going to close our church buildings. And instead, we're going to have one Benefice service go out online every Sunday. Now, online services are obviously something that we've been doing for many months now. But we want to really develop them over the coming weeks. And we really want everybody to be able to see this service as church for them. So this is how today is going to work. The theme for today is all about God's creation and how we respond to the climate challenge. I'm going to be talking about that later on in the sermon, and I'm going to be posing a few questions. Immediately after the service, I'd really encourage you, if you can, to join us on Zoom. Together, we're going to break out into little groups where we're going to have the chance to think about those questions and talk about them in a group. We'll also have a chance to check in with each other, find out how we're doing, and a chance to pray together as well. As well as that, we're going to have some music, and we're going to have a kids activity, a mini RE lesson that we did for homeschooling in my house this week. I really hope that you can see this morning as church for you. Let's start this church service with some music. Now, we can't sing in church buildings, but you can sing as loud and as out of tune as you want at home alongside this service. So why not join in as Andrew leads us in our first song? Andrew. I've come outside now. We're at the start of a new year, and I want us to think about how the church marks various points throughout the year. Last week I was inside church and we were talking about Epiphany, and I was talking about the church tradition of chalking the door. And as you do that, you're asking God to bless your house. Today is a day that was traditionally called Plough Sunday. And it was called that because it was the day before what was called Plough Monday, which was the second Monday in January, when agricultural workers would return to work after being off for the Christmas break. And on Plough Sunday, the church would celebrate that. They would bless the land and pray for the work that was going to be done on that. We've kind of lost that tradition because I think we've kind of lost a link to the land that we used to have before. In the 21st century way of living and with 21st century houses, we don't have a link to God's creation in the way that we maybe once did. So I want to see whether we can bring back Plough Sunday today. Now, you probably don't have a field, you probably don't have a plough, but you probably do have a garden or some patch of earth somewhere. Now, for a long time I neglected our front garden, but recently I pulled up a load of nasty weeds and found that we actually had a bed of earth here. And what I want to do today is I'm just going to plough up a little bit of it. I'm going to dig an area and plant something today. And I want to encourage you to do something similar. I want to encourage you to get out and plough any area of land you have and just get out and work in God's creation. I've got this evergreen plant which I'm going to plant here today. It's going to give white flowers in spring, and then it's going to give off orange fruits in autumn. And hopefully it should remind us that God is constantly creating. When we get outside into the world around us, when we work with the land around us, we can be inspired by God's creation. I'd like to invite you to do that this week. We can be inspired by God in so many ways. One of the ways is creation. Another way is the Bible. And we're going to have our 2 Bible readings right now.
Our first Bible reading for today is Mark chapter 1 verses 9 to 11. At that time, Jesus came from Nazareth in Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. As Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw heaven being torn open and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased."
The reading is taken from Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 to 5. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, there was morning, the first day.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Judith. Thank you for those readings. God is revealed in a variety of different forms in the Bible. We see God revealed as a voice speaking from heaven. We see God revealed as a physical dove, as the Holy Spirit. And we see God revealed as Jesus. Next month, I'm going to start a midweek Lent course where we're going to be looking at the book of Revelation. In that final book of the Bible, God is revealed in a variety of different ways. But what I want us to do right now is think about the first book of the Bible, Genesis, and think about how God is revealed to us there. The very first way that God chooses to reveal himself to us is as a creator. The very first way in which God reveals himself to us is by saying 4 words. In the Bible, the first thing that God says is, "Let there be light." But as well as the Bible, I want us to think about science today. Let's think about what science tells us about the creation of the universe. Firstly, it is thought that the universe began around 14 billion years ago, when something called inflation theory tells us that the universe expanded from nothing to something really big in the tiniest fraction of a second. So in what might have been maybe the time it took God to say the word light, there was already 62 trillion miles of creation for that light to inhabit. God wasn't done with creating. God's universe continued to expand, but at a much slower rate than that initial fraction of a second. And then 4 billion years ago, the rate of expansion started accelerating. Nobody really knows, but a good guess is that now the universe is expanding at a rate of 2,500 miles per minute. Because of those 4 words spoken at the beginning of the Bible, there are miles and miles of the universe still being created by God every single second of your life. Our God, before anything else is said or understood, was and is and always will be a creator. Why am I telling you this? Why am I trying to put images of a universe that's constantly being created by a creator God in your mind? Well, because I'm trying to get you to marvel at the vastness of the creation of our creator God. But I also want us to think about what Genesis tells us. And Genesis 1 goes on from telling us that God created light to telling us that God created all things. And at every stage we see that God didn't just create all things. We also see that he saw all things. And Genesis chapter 1 repeatedly tells us that with all things that God created, God said they were good. All of God's creation is something that God has declared to be good. What about us? Do we see everything that God has created and see it as good? And if so, are we looking after it? Or are we destroying what God has created? I want us to think today about how we should look after God's creation. Now then, there are generally 3 different responses when a preacher mentions climate change and creation care in a sermon. Some people are delighted to hear it being preached and are encouraged. A second set of people are summed up by somebody who once told me, "I don't come to church to be lectured to about stuff in the news. I come to hear about God." That is a very valid response. We come to church to encounter God. That's why I'm talking about how God is revealed in the Bible. If we want to follow God and please God, then we need to be aware of what is precious to God. A third response is to say, yeah, but what difference can I make? Again, that is fair enough. Organisations can have a bigger impact than individuals. That's why the Diocese of Bristol has declared a climate emergency and urged churches to make this a missional priority. Our church will work with the charity Arosha over the next couple of months and look to reduce our carbon footprint as we work with their eco-church material. Organisations can have a big impact, but individuals can still help. Changing individual habits is hard, and there's often contradictory advice about what the best thing to do is, but I want to challenge you to do 3 really easy things this week, and I want you to talk about them in our Zoom session after this service. First challenge: go online this week and change your energy supplier. We all know that burning fossil fuels is bad for the environment. This is something really effective that we can do. It's the most effective thing that you can do that you won't even notice has happened. I changed my energy supplier last month when the energy tariff was up for renewal. And actually the 100% green energy tariff that I renewed with was only £3 more expensive each month than the most cheap tariff I could find. Switch, it's easy and it really helps. Second challenge: talk about this stuff. Talk about looking after God's creation and your response to the climate challenge. Talk about it in the Zoom session. Talk about what you do to be green. Then embrace the fact that church is talking about this stuff. Embrace the material that church is putting out at the moment around the climate emergency. Think about what you can do. Third challenge: get out into God's creation this week. Go out for a walk, or better still, a run. Or if you can't do that, just go out into your garden, or just look out of the window at the night sky, at the stars that God flung up there. Be inspired by the awe of God's creation. Remember that God says that creation is good. As a follower of God, what are you going to do to look after what God has declared to be good? Finally, just think right now. How much more universe has been created in the minutes in which I've been speaking? How much more of the universe has our Creator God been creating? God cares so much about God's creation. God has said it's good. Let's show that as followers of God, we think it's good too.
sea. Creation's revealing your majesty. From the colors of fall to the fragrance of spring. Every creature unique in the song that it sings. All exclaiming, indescribable, uncontainable. You place the stars in the sky and you know them by name. You are amazing, God. All powerful, untamable, awestruck we fall to our knees as we humbly proclaim. You are amazing, God. Who has told every lightning bolt where it should go? Or seen heavenly storehouses laden with snow? Who imagined the sun and gives light to its source? amazing God. You are amazing God.
Hi, I'm Sophie. Hi, I'm Adam. In our RE lesson for homeschooling with our dad, we are learning about God's creation and how people are destroying the world. In Genesis chapter 1. We have also been talking about pollution. So we went into our garden and went around for a little walk in our garden and looked at things that were nice and beautiful that God's made. And then we drawed it. Mine's of my guinea pigs, Daisy, Fluffy and Sparkle. And it says, God said, let there be light. I drew the tips of a tree because God made lots of trees and they're nice to climb on and sit down with them. And on mine says, God's creation, let there be light. And God said it was good. And we need to look after it.
Thank you, guys. So we are coming towards the end of our service now. There aren't going to be any formally led intercessory prayers in today's service because I want to encourage you, if you can, to join us on Zoom immediately after this service when we can break into groups and we can pray together about what's on our hearts. We can also discuss those questions, those issues that I posed for you during today's sermon, or you can just chat about whatever you like with other people from church. If you can join us on Zoom after this next song, then great. If you can't, then I hope you have experienced something of God in today's service. And I hope that you can experience more and more of God in God's creation this week. So may God go with you this week as you go in peace to love and serve the Lord in the name of Christ. Amen.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing Your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. You're rich in love and You're slow to anger. Your name is great and Your heart is kind. For all Your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then